Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, boys and girls. Happy Friday. Today is Friday, April 9th. And as you can see on the board behind me, today we're going to be doing some writing about Harry Potter, Chapter 9. Let's go ahead. Let's dive right in today. Today's video should hopefully be a little bit shorter than some of the previous videos. So we're going to get going. Today, the Do Now asks you to write down your work for today, your homework. The homework and classwork today, you're going to be writing a summary of Chapter 9 and uploading a clear picture of your summary. We're going to do this on page 60 in our ELA notebook. So, scrolling down here through our table of contents, you guys can see that page right here. Okay, we have page 60. We have the Chapter 9 summary. All right, and you'll notice with this virtual week, we are not doing any quizzes this week. We are just doing our readings, and then we are doing our summaries. And you can see that right here. So activity number 1, you can see no quiz today. All right, but here we do have our activity number 2, which is the 45 or 60-second summary challenge. And of course, we're not going to be doing the challenge, but we are going to be doing the portion which requires us to write a summary. All right, well, yesterday with our reading of Chapter 9, we had a lot of exciting things happen, and there's a giant list of discussion questions for us that we could talk about. And these are all things that you guys might ultimately put into your summary. Why didn't Harry tell Dumbledore about the voices he heard? What would you do about the voices if you were Harry? Who tells the students the story of the Chamber of Secrets? This is a really big chapter because we learn about the legend of the Chamber of Secrets. And it's Professor Binns who tells the students the story about that legend. And so I don't want to dive too much into the actual legend because that was in our reading. But we know that Hogwarts was founded by those 4 witches and wizards. There was actually 2 witches and 2 wizards. And they all got along well except for Salazar Slytherin, who wanted the magical learning to be kept within all magical families. And so he didn't think that students like Hermione or students who had Muggle parents should be allowed to join their school. And so he left the school and he built this secret chamber that holds a monster where the monster can be unleashed and it can kill any student who is unworthy of learning at Hogwarts. And so that means, again, students like Hermione. And how would you feel after you heard the story of the Chamber of Secrets if you were a student there? What does Harry begin to worry about after he hears the legend of the chamber? And this is a part where we really get to start seeing into Harry's inner conflicts. An external conflict is Harry versus the voice. He's hearing this voice. Harry versus Draco and the other Slytherins. But here, Harry begins to worry that somehow he might be responsible. He's making these things happen. He's the one that can hear this voice. The Sorting Hat wanted to put him in Slytherin. Maybe, unknowing to himself, he's the actual heir of Slytherin, and maybe somehow he is the one responsible for these events that have been happening. And we see this inner conflict. And this is going to be an important part of our story as we move forward, because ultimately, it's this conflict that Harry is going to have to confront Dumbledore. And that's a part of our hero's journey, an important part, where our hero has to confront the authority figure about these internal conflicts that they're having. So this conflict, this bit of information here where Harry is worried, this is going to come back to be a constant reoccurring topic or detail within our future readings. We learn about what Ron is afraid of, that he's afraid of spiders. We learn about what Polyjuice Potion can do. And it can take Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they could drink this potion, and they can transform into another student or another person for a period of time because they want to get information from Draco, because they believe that maybe Draco is the heir of Slytherin. And again, here's a really great question to reflect upon. Would you be willing to drink the Polyjuice Potion? And what do you think Harry, Ron, and Hermione should do next? All right, at the end of this chapter, they're at this conundrum where Harry's worried maybe it's me. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are thinking maybe it's Draco, and so they want to get information. So we can start thinking as we want to go and write a reflection. What should Harry and his allies do? Now, these last questions are all about the hero's journey. What part of the hero's journey is Harry on? We could go back, look in our notes. We should be very mindful about this. Harry's well into his road of trials right now. He's getting help from his allies and helpers, Ron and Hermione. Hagrid, his mentor, is always there to help him. Dumbledore, we're starting to see him come into the picture and support Harry when Harry needs help. And that leads us into who is Harry's mentor. And we could ask you, who is your mentor? Think about, what adult do you go to when you need help? I mean, maybe it's a teacher, but more likely it's probably a parent, or it could be an aunt or an uncle, or just a trusted family friend. You know, think about, who is it that you go to when you need help? And again, who are Harry's allies? And again, think about, who are your allies? What friends do you turn to when you need help? And I don't mean just who do you play with at school, who do you hang out with when you're in school, but really, who are those friends that when you're hurt, when you're bothered, when you're upset, when you're angry, or when you're happy, who is it that you go to? What friend do you go to that you talk to? All right? So these are all great questions to think about before we get into our summary, because it gives us a lot of ideas about things that we can reflect on. Remember, with our summaries, when we write a reflection, we don't want to reflect and say things like, well, I liked this chapter, it was a good chapter, because you're not going very deep. You're not truly reflecting on anything. All right? You're just sharing a very low-level opinion. When we reflect, we want to go really deep, and these discussion questions are the kinds of questions that you can think about to really help yourself think deeply about your reading. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's jump into our summary, and let's do a very quick review. We know here that our summaries, they need 3 things. Every summary needs 3 things. By now, these should be automatic. They should be up here. You start with the main idea. Think about mood, or think about the big idea in the chapter. What's the big idea in the chapter? And, you know, in this chapter, we learn about the legend of the Chamber of Secrets. That's a really big idea. We can also think about the mood and think about how the mood is starting to get darker and scarier in this chapter. We have to include the most important details. And we have to include our reflection, which is our thoughts about the events of the chapter. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm going to open up here my document camera so I can look here at my notebook and share it with you guys. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do before I begin writing my summary is I'm going to take a look at my notes. Okay, here we have my Chapter 9 notes for the writing on the wall. And I have got a lot of notes. I did a list for this chapter. And I have, you can see, I have a ton of notes. It just goes on and on and on. And so I've done 2 things here with my notes before I go to write my summary. Is I've highlighted the most important things. And this I did for you guys as we were reading, so you can see these are the things that I would definitely make sure that I put in my summary. And then the other thing that I did just now before this video is I went back and I starred some things that I believe are to be the most important. Now, I have a lot of stars because every single bullet is focused on just one little detail. So, you know, you can look here, I got 3 stars right here, but I might take all 3 of these details and end up writing them into one sentence. All right? I'm not saying that for every star you need a sentence, but I starred just some of the things that I believe are most important. So before you guys go to write your summary, I would invite you to go back into your notes. Review your notes and think about which ones of these notes do I really need to include. What's the most important stuff? All right? And then also take some time to truly, again, reflect and think about some of these questions, especially where I ask you about what do you think Harry should do, and asking you, would you be willing to do this? Wherever I'm asking for your thoughts and your opinions, that's where you want to go back in and think, hey, this is something I can reflect on. All right, so let's jump in. I will share my summary with you. All right, you guys can pause now if you really want to challenge yourselves. Eventually, I'm not going to be showing my summaries to you at all, but I want to do it now because for your Chapter 10 summary, that is going to be a chapter where you are going to write your summary, and it's going to count as a quiz grade. So I'm going to start off right here with the main idea. So in my notebook, before I even do any of that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that my notebook has 3 things: the date, the title, and the page number. Now, you'll notice my notebook was missing the date, so I got to come back here, make sure I get that date. This lesson is on the 9th, so I will add that here to my notes. Today is April 9th. This is my Chapter 9 summary, and it is page 60. All right, so the first thing I know that I need is the main idea. Okay, so let's look at my main idea. This is what I wrote. In Chapter 9, the students of Hogwarts learn about the Chamber of Secrets. I really think it's important that somewhere in your topic sentence, your main idea, you include the fact that these students are learning about the Chamber of Secrets. The book is called Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and it's in Chapter 9 where we learn the legend. And that's the big idea of this chapter. There's a lot of things that happen, but the big idea is we learn about this legend. Okay? It's not just a detail. That's really what this entire chapter is about. Okay? At the end of Chapter 8, we just get that message on the wall that the chamber has been opened, enemies of the air beware. And in this chapter, we start diving into what is this legend and how is this a legend affecting the students. We see how it's affecting Harry, we see how it's affecting Ron and Hermione, and all the other students of Hogwarts are just, they're very intrigued, they're motivated to find out about this legend, all right? So I'm going to begin with that. That's my main idea. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the most important details of the chapter and focus just on the most important stuff, going from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter. So you can see here, first, I write, Harry feels like he can't tell anyone except Ron and Hermione about hearing the voice. That's where our chapter kind of begins. Those first several pages, there's a lot of details, but the one thing I believe is most important is focusing on Harry. Always focus on Harry. Harry feels like he can't tell anyone except for Ron and Hermione about hearing the voice. So he hasn't told the teachers, he hasn't told any of his other friends, he hasn't told Dumbledore, he's kept it to just himself and Ron and Hermione. The second detail, I get right into the legend. And here I write, Professor Binns tells everyone about the Chamber of Secrets and how only the heir of Slytherin can open it. Now, I don't dive into all of the details about the chamber. That's something that you could definitely do in your summary. You could summarize that legend a little bit. All right, but I think it's most important that you are sharing in your summary. What happens is the students at Hogwarts, they learn about the legend. All right, it's important that you know the legend yourself, but within a summary, to me, the most important part is the students now know about this legend. All right, yes, Professor Binns knew about it, the other teachers probably knew about it, but now all of the students, they know about this legend. And then I move right into Harry. Okay, my next detail here is Harry starts to worry that he might be the heir, and other students begin to spread rumors about Harry being the heir. You notice my attention is solely focused on Harry. It's always focused on Harry and how Harry is experiencing things. Once again, it's not always focused on the other characters. It's focused on our main character. The story is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. It's not Ron Weasley and the Chamber of Secrets. It's not Hermione Granger and the Chamber of Secrets. It's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So while those other characters are important, and we do definitely want to talk about them, the character we have to focus on is always Harry. All right, the next detail here, you'll see I do spend some time talking about these other characters. Hermione convinces Harry and Ron that they should make Polyjuice Potion so they can turn into Malfoy's friends for an hour to find out if he knows anything about who opened the chamber. And that's kind of right at the end. Okay, so when you read my summary, you'll see I'm not diving into all of the details. Here's my summary. I'm going to read the whole thing to you before I read my reflection. In Chapter 9, the students of Hogwarts learn about the Chamber of Secrets. Harry feels like he can't tell anyone except Ron and Hermione about hearing the voice. Professor Binns tells everyone about the Chamber of Secrets and how only the heir of Slytherin can open it. Harry starts to worry that he might be the heir, and other students begin to spread rumors about Harry being the heir. Hermione convinces Harry and Ron that they should make Polyjuice Potion so they can turn into Malfoy's friends for an hour to find out if he knows anything about who opened the chamber. So now I've included all of the details that I believe are most important. And the last thing that I need to do is reflect. All right? And again, a really good way if you're struggling with how do I reflect, start off with these words. If I was Harry. Okay, if I was Harry, and then think, what would you do? How would you feel? All right, don't just say, I thought this chapter was good, or I thought this chapter was boring. That's not a reflection. All right, a reflection is truly thinking about what's happened in the chapter, okay, and maybe predicting what might happen next, or putting yourself in the main character's shoes and saying what you would do, or what he should do, or think, or feel. So here, this is where I write, if I was Harry, I would be most angry that people are spreading untrue rumors about me. I don't know if I would be so worried that I might be the heir. Harry definitely is worried about that. But I just think about me personally, and I would hate people spreading rumors. All right, I don't like anybody talking about me behind my back, especially when the things are untrue. And that's what a rumor can be. A rumor can be something that is untrue about a person. All right, and right now everybody in school is kind of pointing the finger at Harry, and they're saying, "Hey, he's the one that's doing this." All right, so if I was Harry, I would be most angry that people are spreading untrue rumors about me. Now, this is my reflection. Your reflection should not be the same as mine. And I would really want to challenge each and every one of you to really, by this point now, we're into Chapter 9, that you're really writing your own summaries. Yes, I'm modeling these for you, and I've modeled them for every chapter up until this point. But now as we start to move into the second half of the book, this really needs to be a time where you guys are going to start practicing. You might struggle a little bit, and that's okay. I want you to know it is okay to struggle through some of this stuff. Focus, guys, when you're writing these, on making sure that you're doing just the rules of writing. And that's something that I always put on the blog for you guys. All right, and here it does say, let me just make that a little smaller. You will be expected to follow the rules of writing. Okay, these are the things that you really need to make sure that you're doing. And then the details will start to come, all right? Make sure that you're indenting the first line. You're writing a paragraph. You need to indent. Make sure that all of the other lines are lined up along the margin line. So when I look at mine, you see I've indented the first line, which means I've pushed in the first line. And all my other lines are lined up right along the margin. This is called the margin line. Okay. And my writing is neat and it's on the lines. And that's what I wrote right here. Words go on the line, guys. Put spaces between your words. So many of you guys, when you write, you just write one big long line, and it's very hard to see the spaces between your words. Make sure that your words have spaces between them. Work on your proper capitalization and punctuation. Okay? You guys know proper nouns, so names of people, names of places, they need capitals. So Ron and Harry. Professor Binns needs capitals. Words that are starting a sentence need capitals, like I on if. Okay? Something I've noticed that a lot of you make mistakes on is whenever you use the word I by itself, so here I said if I was Harry, whenever I is by itself, it always has to be capitalized. Spelling matters. This is something that really bothers me a bit. Guys, you should not be misspelling words from the book. So Polyjuice Potion, Filch, Harry, Ron, Hermione, Professor Binns, Dumbledore. All these characters' names, places like the Ravenclaw, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor. You should not be misspelling these words. One, you have your notes, and when you write your notes, you should be specific. And because you're writing it straight out of the book, you have the word in the book before it goes in your notes. And then you still have the book handy. You should not be misspelling words from our book. All right? I can understand misspelling some other words that can be challenging. All right? But words that are in our book, especially the names, they should not be misspelled. All right, and then neatness. With these summaries, I am looking at them. I'm trying to make sure that you have a main idea, you have details, and you have a reflection. And it's really hard when some of you guys, one, you got to take a clear picture so I can read it. And two, you have to write neatly. You should not be scribbling, all right? When I write quickly, my writing is not this neat. I have to take my time to write this neatly. Okay, if I have to leave a note for someone really quickly, or if I'm just jotting a note down, my notes are often not this neat. So you yourself have to realize, I can write neat. Every one of you has the ability to write neatly. It just does require you to take time to write down your ideas. All right, well, today, after you write your summary, your job is to go to our Google Classroom. Okay, I'm going to have to open up our Google Classroom. So I'm going to open up my Google Classroom. You have to go to your Classworks tab, and you will have to scroll down, and you'll have to click on our Chapter 9 summary, and you have to make sure that you take a clear picture and upload your picture and submit it so that I can check your work. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next week we will be reading Chapter 10, The Rogue Bludger, and we will be reading Chapter 11, The Dueling Club. And with both of these chapters, we will return to having quizzes, and we will have our summaries. And your Chapter 10 summaries, guys, is going to be a quiz. All right, it's going to count as a quiz grade. So, enjoy your weekend. Take some time off. I don't have any homework for you. So if you're watching the videos and you're doing these assignments with me, you're in great shape. Just have a great weekend. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.